Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another Sarnetta TV House of Consciousness production. You already know what it is. We got Shakka Ahmose in the building.
Tonight, what I'm here to talk about is a subject matter that has really had my mind perplexed for some time now. And that subject matter is when it comes to slavery in this country, sir, have you ever noticed that every time they bring up the subject of slavery, they stick our face on it?
Right.
As if we are the poster children for slavery. And you also notice that anytime black people, our people, when we have a conflagration with white people, either black or white, either side, the first place we go to is slavery. The first place they go to is slavery. They go to slavery in that, well, you see, let me tell you something about white people in slavery. They have a lot of mixed psychoses going on in their mind about slavery. In other words, in one instance, they don't want you to bring it up because they feel guilty. In other instances, they don't want you to bring it up because as far as they're concerned, it's over. But what they fail to talk about is how many of them are really upset that it's over. And they don't talk about that. A lot of that's one because it's politically incorrect to talk about how angry you are. That's something.
Show some of that where they angry.
Actually, I'm going to talk about it. And actually, to some degree, I will show something related to it. But the point I'm making, Sarnetta, is that this is a very real thing, bro. There's so many different aspects about it, about this whole slavery thing. But the way the media runs it, they never have a real honest conversation about it. You understand what I'm saying? They never have a real honest conversation about it. So, in any event, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to introduce a different aspect or a different narrative as it concerns slavery, black people, and white people. And I'm going to tell you something else that we don't often talk about as black people. We also have a number of mixed psychoses when it comes to slavery. You know, in one instance, we don't want to talk about it, or we get offended when people bring it up. But in the next instance, we'll bring it up when we feel it serves our cause. But one of the things that I can tell you about slavery is that when we change the narrative, sir, both white people and black people are going to be made to be very uncomfortable. When you approach slavery from the angle that I'm going to be approaching it from, in that particular lecture, white slaves, black masters, or black masters, white slaves. When I'm approaching that subject matter, both sides are going to be made to feel very uncomfortable. You know why? Because, consider this, huh? If it turns out that black people did enslave white people in mass, right? If that turns out to be true, then black people are going to be forced to do the same thing they want white people to do, and that's take responsibility for enslaving them. And that's not something a lot of black people want to do, because when that narrative gets put on the table, it's gonna force black people to realize, that might change the whole dynamic, even about reparations and everything else, because then white folks will be talking about, we're even. And believe it or not, that was a very central part of Shakka Diop's narrative. And a lot of people chose not to focus on that. For whatever reason, they just wanted to sweep it under the rug. You understand what I'm saying? But in this lecture here, we're not sweeping it under the rug. In this presentation, black masters, white slaves, it ain't gonna be no sweeping it under the rug. It's gonna be looking at the facts. It's gonna be looking at the documentation. And it's gonna be coming to terms with some facts and with some truth. So what I'm here to do this evening is to let you know, number one, that this presentation and this lecture exists. And I'm here to present it to you to make you actually want to come and learn truthfully the whole facts behind the whole situation. Or you could be on the outside and still wonder about it and still continue with the same old narrative. And when you continue with the same old narrative, you're going to also see why it's not going anywhere. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to furnish all of us, you, me, your family. I'm trying to furnish all of us with a different narrative so that when we encounter white people, it's not the same old conversation. Oh, well, you did this to me, and you did this to us, and you did. It's the same. We've been saying that for how long? How long since slavery been over? We've been saying that, and ain't nothing. In fact, what they've done is they've used it to their advantage. Do you know how they've used it to their advantage? They've used it to their advantage, sir, by creating movie after movie after movie about black people being slaves. They did Roots. They did 12 Years a Slave. They did what's the other one? Oh, Django Unchained. They did all of these slave movies, right? So being a little black child in America and growing up and seeing cinema, what is going to be your self-narrative in your head about the history of your people when you're sitting in these classrooms with these other people? All you thinking about is your legacy is slavery. That's it. And that's the message those movies send. All of these movies coming out of Hollywood start historically with us at one period and one period only, slavery, and it creates one narrative: black people being enslaved by white people. Now, see, some white people feel guilty, but you also got to realize it gives other white people a superiority complex.
How so?
It allows them to push the narrative that, number one, it was a naturally ordained situation. Didn't they use the Bible to condone slavery? Mm-hmm. Slaves be good to your master. Well, they weren't talking to white slaves. They weren't talking to Spanish slaves or even Chinese slaves. And Chinese people enslaved their own. But that's not who that was for. That was for us. They used that whole narrative, the whole Shem, Japan, the whole Ham, Shem, and Japheth thing. You know, the whole curse of Ham thing. All of that was about us, written into their documentation. You understand what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is that it gives them a superiority complex. Just think about this. And this is the real weird part of the whole conversation. Jewish people love to talk about being enslaved in Egypt, don't they? The whole Exodus story, right? But in the very same token, they don't ever talk about black people being the ancient Egyptians. So the whole thing is just a really weird, dichotomic kind of conversation. You understand what I'm saying? You want to talk about being enslaved in Egypt, but at the same token, you don't want to admit that the ancient Egyptians were black. So that it creates a whole really weird dichotomy. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm here to talk to you about. And that is to start to change the narrative to begin to remind these white people that they were once our slaves. And the problem I have, sir, this is the problem I have with it. The problem I have is that when white people have a national narrative and discourse about slavery, it's about them owning us. So white people in their minds, whether they admit it consciously or subconsciously, they always get to walk around with that one up, like they got one up on us. It gives them a superior. It's got to give them a superiority complex if it in turn gives us an inferiority complex. You understand what I'm saying? And as long as you got that inferiority complex, you're always going to approach the subject matter from that angle, as if you're coming from the bottom up. Right. But if I show you, if I furnish you and impart to you another paradigm where you can look at it, if not from the top down, at least from a level playing field, now all of a sudden it's a different dynamic. It's a very different dynamic, and it will also explain to you some of the hidden fears that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, bless that saint, an ancestor, Duaou, may she live forever. It also deals with the fact that she never addressed that in the ISIS papers. She gave all these other reasons for white people wanting to kill black people and wanted to rule black people, all these other reasons for white supremacy, but she never touched on the fact that we enslaved them more than once in our history. And here's the other thing nobody ever talks about, sir. They never forgot it. They never forgot it. That's the sneaky part with white people. They never forgot it. And what they've done over the years is they've used Hollywood and their access to the media to constantly to subliminally remind themselves.
Let me ask you a question. Sure. So now that we're dealing with slavery, what is your take on reparations? What do you think about reparations? You have a group of black brothers fighting for reparations. Should we forget reparations at this point? I'm saying we ain't gonna never get reparations until we get back in power. That's what I'm saying. White man don't give a damn about us getting reparations. And if he do give it back to us, how do we get it? Who is the reparations for? Because we are so scattered throughout the land. You know, you got Moors that say, oh, we ain't never been enslaved, I'm not black. So we disassociate. Then you got Hebrews that say, well, you know, fuck them Africans, I'm not Africans, I'm not black. So we are all scattered as a people. So when reparations finally, let's say the white men say, all right, we're going to give you Negroes reparations. Who get the reparations? How is it disseminated amongst all of us where we all can benefit like the so-called Jews? They benefit, you see? How do we benefit if we get it?
I think that's a very good question. The first thing that we have to do is this. We have to properly identify how we define reparations. And why is that important? Well, that's one part of the tier, identifying it properly. The second part of the tier, I want to address it with the first thing you said. I want to address the fact that you said we are all disparate. We're scattered all over the place. Well, let me explain something to you that I've learned about white people. With white people, when they want to get something done, the only thing that really matters are those white people that matter. They identify the white people that matter, and then they push something through. The white people that don't matter, you never hear them mention them anyway. They're just, you know, if you don't figure into our plan, if you don't figure into our strategy, you don't matter, you don't count anyway. But the most intelligent thing about the white people that matter is everybody has a place in their plan. Everybody has a function in their plan. You might not like your function in their plan, but trust me, they got a little something for everybody. But the most important thing about those white people is that they know which white people matter. If you don't believe me, look at Trump's new tax plan. He knows which white people matter and which ones don't, right? He spit right in the face of the very white people that put him in power. He said, yeah, I'm giving you a shitty tax plan, and us, we're getting the great end of the stick. Doesn't even care. Right? Doesn't matter. He got what he needed. He got where he needed to be. So it's important that black people begin to think like that. In some respect, we have to determine which black people matter. Meaning, yeah, we do have black people who entertain and advance very fringe ideas about and disparate ideas, and also benign ideas about who we are and who we have been in the past. Like, some of those identities really don't matter. And the reason I say that, okay, when you say we're Hebrew Israelites, okay, so what do we get to claim as Hebrew Israelites? Did we introduce math as Hebrew Israelites? I'm asking you, did we create math as Hebrew Israelites? Did we create science as Hebrew Israelites? Did we make real contributions to civilization as Hebrew Israelites? No, we did not. So therefore, if anything, we may have retarded civilization by being Hebrew Israelites. So a lot of these claims are benign. So you have to determine, or we have to determine, which black people matter when it comes to advancing policy, advancing and defending, and most importantly, defining policy for us as a race. That's important. Right? Those things are very important. And then back to number one that I said, which was identifying reparations properly. Watch this. You identify reparations properly by first saying, okay, what is the greatest thing, or rather, what was the number one thing that we were deprived of as a race in this country by slavery? If we're speaking if we're speaking economically and fiscally, Sonetta, what was the number one thing as a race that we were deprived of, that we were not able to pass on intergenerationally? Do you know what the number one thing was?
Economics.
Well, no, we inherited our slave economics, that lack of education, that relay race that we were forced to start way behind on. We inherited that. So we have economics, right? It's just that it's dysfunctional economics. And the reason our economics is dysfunctional is because it lacks the one thing that we were truly deprived of. It's the only thing that really separates white people from us in this country economically. And what that is assets. Assets. So if we have not educated ourselves to the point to truly identify and locate what qualifies as assets today, because if they give us money as reparations, money is not necessarily assets if you don't know how to manage it and what to do with it. So there are things that we can perhaps demand. There are things that we can demand as reparations that don't necessarily have to equate with money. But as long as we can identify it as an asset, then we can say, yeah, we want that. No, keep your money. We want this. Why? Because that's an asset. We want this. Why? Because that's an asset. So now we can start listing our assets. And these assets are what will begin to help us evolve out of the muck and mire we were placed in, which is lack of education. And then what do they furnish us with after lack of education? Something worse than that. Miseducation. You got to ask yourself, have we ever done a real study on which one is better or worse? Lack of education or miseducation? Who did that study? I don't even think Carter G. Woodson did in the miseducation of the Negro. But I'd have to go back and check. But that's a study worth having. Miseducation or lack of education. Which one is worth? So again, back to the whole question of slavery. The whole question of slavery really, and at that point, the topic of reparation is really going to become interesting when we start dealing with the fact that we as a race have enslaved white people numerous times in our past. So then the real question is, why have white people gone to so much trouble to cover it up? That's what I want to know. Why have you gone to so much trouble to cover it up? And that's what I want to talk about in the lecture. Right? So we can just head straight up to the presentation and get started on that.
Okay. You don't want to have your queen say a few words?
Nah, she's not here for that. She's not here for that. She's not here for that. Nah, she's not here for that. I'm gonna tell you why. Because
she had her turn on Wednesdays when
she got her turn on Wednesday, but not even just that. My thing is, I'm already a target for a lot of losers out there, and I'm not trying to. They say you don't cast your pearl before swine. Right. You know what I'm saying? And there's too many brothers that have come on House of Consciousness that put their queen out front and it compromised their queen to some extent. You know, you don't want to have people going to grab her video to make all kind of stupidness. And nah. She ain't here for that.
What I said.
Right.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
These niggas is
there's something wrong with them. There's something yeah.
With black people.
Yeah.
Are savages.
That they know no boundaries.
Anything that you try to do good, they try to tear it down.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
But that's the program. That's the program. You know? Yeah, but that's exactly embracepangea.com. You know, if you want to meet my queen, then that's how you meet it. Just go to embracepangea.com. You know, and make sure make sure you treat yourself and your family to some wonderful products, some life-changing products. You can increase your life account. You know what I mean? You can increase your life account. I know you know about the bank account, but you can increase your life account. You heard? And that's what matters.
So
that's what's up. Let's get right to the presentation. That way our little babies can wake up early and go to school in the morning. They can't say Uncle Shakka was here talking to the wee hours in the morning. Yeah.
Let's get back to the beginning. You got the
Oh yeah, I got it.
Put it all the way back. Let's get it back.
That's not the problem. Yeah, you gotta fix the screen. Yeah, family, it's We just got to start changing this narrative and start letting white people control the narrative. You know?
Okay, here we go, brother.
Absolutely.
So you got pre-ordered this presentation.
For sure, absolutely.
Do you want me to make a DVD for you?
A DVD? No, it's not necessary. No.
When you say
No.
how they order it?
No, because actually what they're going to get right now is they're going to get a preview of the presentation. That's what they're here. To get the full version, right, all they got to do is go to ShakkaAhmoseUniversity.com and they can get the full version.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So here it is right here.
Absolutely. Because to do that whole thing here, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Dude, you remember that 8-hour lecture we did on Islam?
Woo!
Okay, well, this is twice as long as that.
Here you go, family.
It's actually a full course.
This is what we're going to do. And
yeah.
You already see Shakka Ahmose University.
That's what it is.
You get down. Here's the
ShakkaAhmoseUniversity.com.
There you go right there. We're going to advertise for my brother.
Duau.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the S is cut off, but you can see it on the end. ShakkaAhmoseUniversity.com.
Say it again, because this is live.
That's what's up. ShakkaAhmoseUniversity.com. Just go there and you can pre-order the presentation. It's a very long presentation. It's very involved, but the learning that you will experience is like none other. You already know how I do. You know when I go in to pull teeth out, tongues out, spleens out. All of it's coming out. We leave nothing on the field. So when you go in and you see this presentation, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see the documentation and the facts to show that we did as a race more than once enslave white people. We did. It's not something that we should be, I'm not saying it's something that we should be proud of. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that it's a fact of history. And if it's a fact of history, what I'm saying is that our children deserve to know that. They deserve to know, yeah, white people didn't enslave us, but you know what? We enslaved them first, and we did it more than once. And it's up to you to judge for yourself whether or not we were right or we were wrong. Now, I've already come to my own conclusion about that.
To the Moors or
no, long before the Moors. There were no Moors at this time.
Okay.
Absolutely. There were no Moors. And I know that really freaks Moors out there for them to think there was a time when they weren't here with that identity. But no, there were no Moors at this time. Moors are a very relatively recent phenomena in history. You know, all you got to do is just go check my R.I.P. Morris Shines Temple on Sign of the TV, Part 2. We took care of that already. But this right, absolutely. So let me just let you know right now. If you go to ShakkaAhmoseUniversity.com, if for the next 24 hours you can get get a pre-order for $47. $47. After that, until Friday night, after this next 24 hours is over, it's going to be $77. So if you don't want to pay the $77, you pre-order the presentation over the next 24 hours. After Friday night, it's going to be $99. So don't come to me, Shakka. I want the presentation. And I'm telling you how to get it right now. If you pre-order right now, you can get it for $47. All right? After the next 24 hours, that presentation, Black Masters, White Slaves, is going to cost you $77. And after Friday night, it's going to be $99.
Now they talking about where's the Shakka Ahmose apparel at.
Okay, well, all you got to do is go to ShakkaAhmose.com. That's ShakkaAhmose.com. It's not on there yet. That's going to be on there by February. All of the apparel is going to be on there by February. In fact, the faster you get over to Shakka Ahmose University and get them pre-orders in there, the faster the apparel will be on ShakkaAhmose.com. And that's how that goes. Absolutely.
With all the information he has given up to
all the information for free. For years, for free.
This is the time to give back.
That's right.
You ready to get in?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Right, let's get it in.
Absolutely. We're about to get in there.